The lights of the America's Got Talent stage glowed like a dream waiting to happen. The audience murmured with anticipation, the judges leaned forward, and somewhere in the crowd, a young Filipino man whispered a prayer under his breath. His name was Rico Dela Cruz, a 26-year-old from Davao City, Philippines, and tonight, he was about to take a leap that could change his life forever. Rico wasn't your typical contestant. He wasn't a trained performer or a music school graduate. He was a janitor at a small airport in Manila who used to mop floors while humming old songs by Elvis Presley. His co-workers nicknamed him, Elvis ng Pilipinas. Every night, after cleaning the empty terminal, he'd pull out his cheap guitar, prop his phone against a mop bucket, and sing to an imaginary crowd. He loved the king, his voice, his charm, his soul. Elvis wasn't just a singer to Rico. He was a symbol, proof that a man from nowhere could make the world listen. Then one day, a traveler recorded him singing, "Can't Help Falling in Love," in the echoing halls of the airport. The video went viral overnight. Millions watched the janitor with the soulful voice of Elvis himself. And that's how Rico found himself standing under the blinding lights of AGT, his heart pounding louder than the applause around him. Welcome to America's Got Talent," said Terry Crews, his booming voice filled with energy. "What's your name, sir?" Rico smiled nervously, clutching the microphone. "My name is Rico Dela Cruz. I'm from the Philippines." The audience cheered instantly. Someone waved a tiny Filipino flag. Simon Cowell leaned forward, squinting slightly. "Ah, the Philippines," he said. "You guys always bring the voice." The crowd laughed. Simon continued, "So what do you do back home, Rico?" "I work as a janitor at the airport," Rico said softly. The judges' faces softened. Sofia Vergara put a hand to her chest. "But," Rico added, a shy grin spreading across his face, "when I clean, I sing Elvis Presley songs." The crowd gasped, clapping. Simon raised an eyebrow. "Elvis, that's a big name to take on." Rico nodded. "Yes, sir. I know I can't be like him, but I sing from my heart, like he did." Howie Mandel smiled. "That's the spirit." "All right," said Simon, gesturing. "Let's hear your best Elvis, Rico." The lights dimmed. A hush fell. The first soft notes of "Suspicious Minds" filled the theater. Rico closed his eyes, and in that instant, he was no longer the shy janitor from Davao. His hips moved with a smooth rhythm. His voice, deep, rich, trembling with nostalgia, carried across the hall. Musical notes were caught in a trap. "I can't walk out," musical notes. The audience fell silent. It wasn't a parody. It wasn't mimicry. It was magic. There was something hauntingly pure in the way Rico sang. Every word sounded lived in, like he had carried it through pain and hope alike. By the second verse, people were on their feet. Sofia covered her mouth, eyes shining. Heidi Klum whispered, "He sounds like Elvis reborn." Simon Cowell sat stone still, his eyes locked on Rico. "Musical notes because I love you too much, baby, musical notes." The final note rose, trembling, then fell gently like a goodbye kiss. The theater erupted. Everyone stood. People clapped, whistled, and screamed. Terry Crews ran from backstage, shouting, "That's our Elvis, baby." But Simon still hadn't moved. Rico, panting, smiled nervously. "Sir Simon, did I?" Simon lifted a hand, silencing the noise. Then, slowly, he stood up. The audience fell quiet again. Simon's voice was low, almost hushed. "Rico, I've been judging talent shows for over 20 years. Rico swallowed hard. Simon continued, "And I have never seen anyone channel Elvis like that, without becoming a copy. You didn't impersonate him, you felt him." The crowd cheered again. Simon smiled, that rare, genuine smile that said everything. "Rico, you just brought Elvis back to life." The room exploded in applause. Rico's knees almost gave out. He laughed, tears blurring his vision. Backstage, Rico hugged Terry Crews, crying openly. "This is for my mom," he said between sobs. "She always told me to keep singing." His mother, who worked 2 jobs back home, had sold her old cell phone just to help Rico afford a ticket to America. "Sing like it's your last day," she told him. And he did. That night, the clip of Rico's performance hit YouTube. Within hours, it had 20 million views. People from across the world wrote comments like, "Greater than, this guy has the soul of Elvis in the heart of the Philippines." Simon Cowell speechless. "That's how you know he's legendary. You can feel every note in your bones." By the next morning, Rico's life had changed forever. Weeks passed. Rico advanced through AGT, round after round. Each time, he chose a different Elvis classic, but gave it a twist that made it his own. In the judge cuts, he sang, "Can't Help Falling in Love," but slowed it down, whisper soft at first, before building into a crescendo that made Sophia tear up. In the semifinals, he performed, "If I Can Dream," with a full orchestra. He wore a white suit, not flashy, but respectful, a tribute, not a costume. After the final note, there was a 5-second silence, the kind that only happens when people forget to breathe. Then Simon stood again, shaking his head in disbelief. "You've turned every Elvis song into your story, Rico," he said. "You're not just the Filipino Elvis anymore. You're Rico, the soul of AGT." By the time the finals came, Rico had become a global sensation. The AGT producers arranged something special, a duet with a hologram of Elvis Presley. The song, "The Wonder of You." As the performance began, Rico stood center stage, spotlights cutting through the smoke. The holographic Elvis appeared beside him, larger than life, smiling. The audience gasped. Together, they sang, "Man and Legend." Musical notes when no one else can understand me, when everything I do is wrong, musical notes. Their voices blended, past and present colliding in perfect harmony. Rico wasn't just singing with Elvis, he was singing to him. Thanking him. When it ended, Rico whispered, "Thank you, King," and bowed his head. The entire room was in tears. Even Simon Cowell, the man famous for his iron composure, had watery eyes. He stood up slowly, grabbed the mic, and said, "I've seen a lot of tribute acts. But this was something divine." Then, as the crowd screamed, Simon pressed the golden buzzer. Gold confetti rained down. Rico dropped to his knees, overwhelmed, clutching his chest as tears streamed down his face. Terry Crews lifted him in a hug, shouting, "Rico, you did it." You made Simon speechless. And he had. For the first time in years, Simon Cowell had nothing left to say. The following days, news outlets called him the Filipino Elvis who silenced Simon. His performance trended globally. Interviews flooded in, but Rico remained humble. In an interview, he said, "I'm just a janitor who loved Elvis. The world gave me a chance to sing for my mother, that's all I ever wanted." When asked what he'd do with the prize money if he won, he smiled softly. "I'd build a small music school back home. For kids who can't afford lessons, like me." The interviewer asked, "And if Elvis could see you now, what would you say to him?" Rico looked into the camera, eyes glistening. "Thank you, for showing me that music is about heart, not fame." Final night. The air was electric. Rico stood backstage, trembling, his mother's old handkerchief clutched in his palm. The host's voice echoed through the theater, "Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your AGT finalist, Rico Dela Cruz." As he stepped onto the stage, the entire audience stood. For his final performance, he chose an unexpected song, "My Way." Not Elvis, but his way. He sang it softly, in a mix of English and Tagalog, his voice raw with gratitude. Musical notes. And now, the end is near, musical notes. Every lyric told his story, the janitor who dared to dream, who mopped airport floors and sang to the echoing night. Musical notes. I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exemption, musical notes. As he reached the final lines, tears streamed down his face. Musical notes. The record shows, I took the blows, and did it my way. Musical notes. The silence that followed was almost sacred. Then, an eruption. The crowd screamed. Sophia and Heidi stood clapping wildly. Howie shouted, "You're a star, Rico." Simon just stared, his lips trembling. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "You know, Rico, when Elvis left the building, the world mourned. Tonight, it feels like he came back, through you." He leaned forward, eyes shining. "But you're not Elvis anymore. You're Rico, and you've made history." When the winner was announced later that night, Rico didn't care about the trophy. He just looked at the confetti, whispered, "Mama, we did it," and smiled. He didn't win first place, but he won something greater. His performance was remembered as one of the most emotional moments in AGT history. Fans across the globe called it the return of soul. Back home in the Philippines, people gathered around televisions, weeping and cheering. Airports played his song over the speakers, the same halls where his dream began. Months later, Rico stood again in that Manila airport, this time not in a janitor's uniform, but a leather jacket. He smiled at the janitors working late. One of them asked shyly, "Sir, can you sing one song for us?" Rico laughed softly. Of course. He pulled out his old guitar and began. Musical notes, wise men say, only fools rush in. Musical notes. Voices joined in. Laughter echoed. And for a moment, time folded. The janitor, the king, the dream, all one. Somewhere, Simon Cowell watched the clip online, shaking his head with a smile. "That's the guy who left me speechless," he murmured. And indeed, the world would never forget the Filipino Elvis who left Simon Cowell speechless.